All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last class of Emunah. Next week, we're going to get back to Pirkei Avot, which we stopped since the war started. So this is the last meeting that we will have about Emunah. And Rabbi Amster hopefully will join soon. But we will start already now. So our thought was to start today to talk about maybe the ultimate test of emunah, which is what is called in Hebrew mesirut nefesh, giving out your soul or giving out your life for God. And this is, in a way, the ultimate test of emunah, because it's the question: do we want, or do we have an aspiration? Do we have will to give our life for God or for Judaism? Um, is it something that is part of our values? Uh, we know that giving life doesn't seem like a Jewish concept. We are aware that there are religions and we're aware that there are religions and groups where giving your life is a big issue. Some of them are called shaheeds, and they want to give you their life for their religion. Um, and is that relevant to us also as Jews? Hello, Rabbi Mattias.
So like, sorry, I didn't get. I don't know. It was different. Technology and me, we don't go hand in hand. What can I say?
So we just started. We just started a little introduction, asking, "Is there any place for giving our life or our soul for our religion?" It seems like it's not exactly. It maybe not naturally uh part of our religion. It sounds like other religions.
The Becharta
But
B'chaim.
what?
And that's about
The
it a
Bech-
little bit.
the
There is
Bechar.
Kiddush
Oh,
Hashem. What about Kiddush Hashem?
oh,
Lamut al Kiddush Hashem. That's one of the things that is very high into the level.
So you came just now, but that's exactly our subject today, and that's why I started with a question. Of course, it is a mitzvah to die for Kiddush Hashem, but what is it exactly, and how should we do it? And doesn't it contradict with the basic values of Judaism of life?
so and exactly. And I just wanted to say, sorry, I just want to say one thing, and then and like we say, the Becharta B'chaim, and you should choose life. That's what we live by. And I just want to emphasize one thing before Rav Natan takes over again. We don't look for this mitzvah. Like we don't look for this mitzvah. We don't look to die al Kiddush Hashem. But yes, sorry. Now,
Yeah, no,
go.
absolutely. So we chose this time, the last meeting of Emunah, to touch upon this and to do it through one of the most basic stories that we have in our tradition, the story of the death of Rabbi Akiva. And we will start immediately with the source. I will just share it here. So Rabbi Mattias, I think we will just start learning. What do you say?
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I follow your lead.
Okay. So as the Talmud's way, it all starts from a discussion in Beit Midrash, a discussion in the learning hall. Uh, 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 I would say an objective discussion. The pasuk says, "Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha." You should love the Lord your God. This is the quote of obviously from Shema, from the first parasha in Shema. And the pasuk says, and you should love ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. That's some of the translations. It's not. There are different translations to this pasuk. And the Gemara asks, I jumped a little bit, but the Gemara asks, what is the significance of every one, of the heart, the soul, and the might? What's the difference? Why is the Torah saying those three things? And there's a discussion there. We won't go into the whole discussion, but then Rabbi Akiva says in the end, with all your soul means even if God takes your soul. So you should love God. Rabbi Akiva's point. Rabbi Akiva's that's the it's a learning. It's something that he learns from the pasuk. This is in the Beit Midrash, right? He says, what does it mean? Love God with all your soul. You should love God even if He takes your soul. And now the Gemara brings up a story about this idea that you should love God even when God takes your soul. What do you say, Rabbi Amster? Should we read everything and then talk, or should we go part by part?
I think we could read it and then we'll go back.
Okay. So the sages taught one time after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, the evil empire of Rome decreed that Israel may not engage in study and practice of Torah. Papos ben Yehuda came and found Rabbi Akiva, who was convening assemblies in public and engaging in Torah study. Papos said to him, Akiva, are you not afraid of the empire? Rabbi Akiva answered him, I will relate a parable. To what can this be compared? It is like a fox walking along a riverbank when he sees fish gathering and fleeing from place to place. The fox said to them, from what are you fleeing? They said to him, we are fleeing from the nets that people cast upon us. He said to them, do you wish to come up onto dry land and we will reside together just as my ancestor resided with your ancestors? The fish said to him, you are the one of whom they say he is the cleverest of animals. You are not clever, you are a fool. If we are afraid in the water, our natural habitat, which gives us life, then in a habitat that causes our death, all the more so. So too we, this is Rabbi Akiva answering Papos, now that we sit and engage in Torah study, about which it is written, for that is your life and the length of your days, we fear the empire to this extent. If we proceed to sit idle from its study, all the more so we will fear the empire. And the story goes on. The sages said, not a few days passed until they seized, the Romans, they seized Rabbi Akiva and incarcerated him in prison, and seized Papos ben Yehuda and incarcerated him alongside him. Rabbi Akiva said to him, Papos, who brought you here? Papos replied, happy are you, Rabbi Akiva, for you were arrested on the charge of engaging in Torah study. Woe unto Papos, who was seized on the charge of engaging in idle matters. The Gemara relates, and this is the last part of the story, and the climax of the story, when they took Rabbi Akiva out to be executed. Rabbi Akiva was executed, one of the 10 rabbis that are mentioned that were executed by the Romans in terrible, terrible ways of execution, and we mentioned them. I'm just saying it. Yeah, we're mentioning them on the Musaf prayer of Yom Kippur, right before the end of Musaf. We're mentioning that terrible, terrible description. When they took Rabbi Akiva out to be executed, it was time for the recitation of Shema, and they were racking his flesh with iron combs. And he was reciting the Shema, thereby accepting upon himself the yoke of heaven. His student said to him, "Our teacher, even now?" He said to them, "All my days I have been troubled by the verse, with all your soul." This is the verse that we spoke about, the verse from Shema, that you should love God with all your soul. And I would say, and I studied, Rabbi Akiva studied already in the Beit Midrash, way before this incident. I studied what is before your soul, even if God takes your soul. I said to myself, when will the opportunity be afforded to me to fulfill this verse? Now that it has been afforded to me, shall I not fulfill it? He prolonged his uttering of the word one, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. He read it, he prolonged the word Echad until his soul left his body, as he uttered his final word, Echad. A voice descended from heaven and said, "Happy are you, Rabbi Akiva, that your soul left your body as you uttered Echad." And I just wanted to say that this is one of the reasons that in the synagogue you might have heard people who are prolonging the word Echad when they say Shema. And of course, this is also the source for generations upon generations of Jews, while they're realizing that they're finishing their life, either naturally or tragically unnaturally, they say Shema. This is based on this source of Rabbi Akiva. So this is the story. Rabbi Amster, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a history with so many thoughts. Like it was a long time ago I learned this Gemara, but it's a very what's it called, fundamental and very like sort of, you can learn so much from it. First of all, I just want to one quick reflection that I want to do, if that's okay, is it says by the Bar Kokhba rebellion. I just want to, if I'm allowed to share, like me and my family, Baruch Hashem, we were in Israel the whole last week and a couple of days before that, and we went to the Bar Kokhba caves, where the Bar Kokhba and his with the army, where they were hiding. We were climbing, like we were how to say, we were in the caves and we were crawling and everything. And I just like quickly want to say that like all of the Gemara and all of our sources, the whole Tanakh, the Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, is full of places, and they're all there. I just want to like emphasize, it's good for everyone to understand that when you go to our land, when you go to Israel, there's still everything is still there. It's a tremendous thing to be able to know that we are part of the history, especially in these times. Especially in these times, it's a very beautiful thing that our people have. We have a long history, and we know our history, and we have the places of our history. It's all there. And you see, like the Romans, they left their mark, but where are they right now? Sorry. But I just wanted to say that something that like struck me when I was there now with my kids and my 7-year-old, my 9-year-old were like crawling. It really dawns on you where we come from. And like Rabbi Akiva, I just want to say one thing, and this is a little bit weird, but this is something that I just keep on thinking about. I often say, if someone asks me, what does the halacha say about certain things? Or like, does the halacha say no? The halacha say yes. The halacha is the Jewish law. And I say, it depends on the situation. And I think Rabbi Akiva here proves that to a very extreme point, that depending on the situation, a situation triggers here a mitzvah. With all of your soul. Again, I'm not looking for that, but Rabbi Akiva was sort of stoiche, you could say. He was, how do you say, what's the word I'm looking for? He was, how would I translate stoiche? He was able to, he was given an opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah, I guess you could say, but it's an opportunity you don't want to get. I just wanted to emphasize that again, Yiddishkeit, Judaism, very much is based on the context and on the situation. And I think this is an extreme way of showing it, but in a way it is. Rabbi Akiva had a situation that was extreme. He was getting killed by the Romans, but then, being the brilliant person he was, he could relate back to the Beit Midrash. He could come back to that. It's a tremendous thing, and I hope you don't misunderstand it. I'm not saying anyone should ever experience it, but he could have such like calm and understand the bigger picture. I guess it's a tremendous thing. That's my first reflection. Rabbi Natan, is there anything like that hits you? You just like
I can't help but asking myself, what is it, is it a story about the greatness of Rabbi Akiva, or is it a story that demands anything from me? This is what and that is why my interest, at least in the beginning of our discussion, would be to understand not the situation with the Romans, but the situation in the Beis Midrash, the situation in the in the learning room, where you sit and different rabbis say different things, and then Rabbi Akiva says that the mitzvah of Bechol Nafshecha, you should love God with all your soul, meaning love God. And I think it's very significant, the wording, afilu hu noter et nafshecha, even though he takes your soul. In other words, Rabbi Akiva reflects that it's a difficult thing. It's not a simple thing. I would say naturally, if God takes your life, and we're talking about it in an easy way, of course we're talking about terrible situations, but if God takes my life, it's a harder thing to love him. Maybe I'll have complaints towards God. Why are you putting me in this situation? Why are you taking my life? And saying, this is the mitzvah, this is what God demands of you. Love God while he's taking your life. How do you understand that? How do you understand Rabbi Akiva in theory? Or
right.
maybe we can ask the rest of the tzibur here. How do you understand this?
No one wants to say something. Maybe I'll try, and then we'll see
Yeah.
if someone wants to join in. I think, like you say, you can learn many different levels of this. But overall, and I think this is something that a lot of this is something that I have noticed very much in the Bet Midrash, and sort of a mentality that comes from the Bet Midrash is that to a certain aspect, a Jew has to be ready to live with something that one would refer to as being like Misirat Nefesh. They have to be Moser Nefesh. Again, Misirat Nefesh means to give your soul. And like we could take it to the very extreme, and that's what happened to Rabbi Akiva. He literally gave his soul. But what it also means is that we kind of have to live our life giving it our all, which I think is a very Jewish concept. You know, where we are extreme people. Sorry, I'm sorry to say this. This is my opinions. This is me speaking. But like for me, it gives me sort of like a calling to know that like Mesirat Nefesh is a little bit part of us. It's part of us. We have that we could give it more. When we feel we can't do it, we could do know themselves, and one cannot push themselves to a level that becomes dangerous. But we are capable of doing a lot. And the moister nefesh that comes from that, I think maybe we could learn from this. Again, this is my take on it. Rabbi Natan, would you agree with what I'm saying?
I agree with you. I would like to say maybe in a few more words about this idea, that if I'm thinking about the difference between bechol levavcha, with all your heart, and with all your soul, I would say that with all your soul, even like you say, before we're getting to the ultimate question of life and death, it's willing to sacrifice.
Right.
In other words, with all your heart means it doesn't require a sacrifice. It means loving God wholeheartedly. That's not it's a positive challenge. It's a challenge of how much do I love, right? How much do I love my yeah, different things that I love, my wife, my children. It's I need to increase my love until I'm loving with all my heart. With all your soul means how much are you willing to sacrifice for the love of God? And here, the ultimate sacrifice is, of course, your very life. But thinking of what am I like right now, I'm sacrificing quite a few things. I'm sacrificing good food. I'm sacrificing, going to a little nice trip on Saturday. I'm sacrifice a few things. I'm sacrificing. I don't think I got anywhere to a real sacrifice in my everyday life. And obviously also the things that someone who just starts getting into Yiddishkeit, starts getting into Judaism, the feeling of sacrifice might be more than someone who's used to it also. So it's also relative. It's not objective, this question. But then starting to think, what will I be willing to sacrifice for God? What are we even ask? I would ask like that. What are we even asking that question about serious sacrifices? Like, am I asking myself, uh, uh, do am I looking only for the things that in Judaism we have ahava and yirah, we have love of God and fear of God. Both of them are things that are not taking us out of our comfort zone, right? It's a question of
That,
how much we are meeting God within the ground rules of what God is in our life. But when we ask what are we willing to sacrifice for God, that's already like where outside of my comfort zone, how far can I
oh,
go?
so that I would say would be the key, the comfort zone. And I think that's something, and I'm gonna be very, I guess I want to be outspoken now because I come from Stockholm. I am Scandinavian. I know the Swedish mentality. I'm not saying the Danish or the Norwegian mentality is the same. I'm not saying maybe that the Malmö mentality is the same as Stockholm mentality and so on and so forth. But I do know from the people I met here and from this city that I find myself to be in, there are a lot of people who are obsessed with being comfortable. They're obsessed with it. It's almost like it's a religion. They're obsessed with being comfortable. And I would say that this is helt verkehrt, exact opposite of what Yiddishkeit is saying. The like to be comfortable, to be able to know, oh, if I only come here, then I can sit down and I'm fine. If I only make this much money, I'm fine because then I can relax. I would say that would be the start here. This obsession of feeling comfortable, maybe this is saying, listen, life is not so much about, like, of course, there are times you want to be comfortable, but I'll tell you a secret. We have Shabbat, okay? There you could be comfortable for real. Yeah, that's what real comfort is. Where you can, but even food becomes a mitzvah. Listen, that's the comfort. Life is like we have 6 days. It's about doing. Yeah, you may have must said they're about doing. They're about accomplishing. That's what it's about. It's about being in a process. And I would say for me, sort of when I had this first, when I really like started, if I'm allowed to say, growing in my Judaism, one of the main things that I realized and that really, really inspired me was this. Wow, it's the accomplishing that we want to do. It's the process that is the most important thing. Not so much to like, oh, if I can only get to point B, then I can relax. Of course, everyone needs to relax. We are by nature we're lazy. We're very human beings. We're a lazy being. We are. But I think for me that would be the first thing. That would be, and I think it's a very valuable lesson. And I think that like that's what I mean when I say pushing yourself, and that is being moiser nefesh. That is mizirat nefesh, to give your soul to it. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And that's also how you grow as a human being. That's how a relationship grows. Two people that want to come close to each other, one thing you have to do is to open up. That's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to show that you're weak. It's very uncomfortable to admit you have done something wrong. It's very uncomfortable to show that you're sad. But if you do it, you see, for me, that's where I think that's my focus in this, at least. Then I have times when I also think to myself, like when I'm very tired and everyone are sleeping here, and I'm the only one who have to clean up, then I'm thinking I'm being moist and nefesh. That's childish.
But I want to bring up another thing that we're not
Please.
talking about here yet, which is again, and we're staying still with Rabbi Akiva's essential saying, or first saying, "Afilu hu notelet nafshecha," he takes your soul, meaning that is not something that I do.
Right.
Right? If maybe if I'm moister nefesh, if I'm giving my soul, then I'm pretty proud of myself. I managed to give my soul. I managed to get out of my comfort zone. I tested myself and I passed the test, right? But what does it mean when the demand of Rabbi Akiva is love God even if he takes your soul? In other way, it's not the test that you're giving yourself, but a situation where you find yourself in. And
Right.
now, in that point, can I love God? Can I find the love of God within me at that point where He takes my soul when He's doing to me Mesiras Nefesh?
Right.
I see that Mr. Glenn raised his hand.
Yeah, perhaps another perspective is whether the soul is yours
Oh,
or it's God's. Because the idea of whether we own our own souls,
but I
we
have
were
an answer.
created in the image.
Yeah. But Elokai neshama shenatata li. Elokai neshama, the neshama that was made by God, that you gave to me. So it's the dynamic is both ways. Hashem is sort of giving us our soul, but I guess it's unknown. that would be my answer. But I very much hear with that. It's a good perspective to think, and maybe that it could be part of the answer. I always thought to myself, and this I'm very likely basing this on one of the rabbeim of all my rabbis that I heard giving a shmooze one time. But when you do say Shema and you say B'chol nafshecha, you should think to yourself that I would be ready. I would be ready to give my soul. But again, it's a little bit, I guess, like a childish way of looking at it. I'm not sure if that's only bad, but for me, that was always the take. And Rabbi Natan, I'm wondering if you're asking, when push come to shove, would we be ready to do it, or are you sort of asking, is this really what we should be thinking? Do you hear my question?
Yeah. I don't know what I was asking. I think both things are interesting.
Right.
The idea that it's not happening to me. Yeah, it's. I think both questions are very serious questions because when I'm in charge of what's happening and I decide to give my soul, of course it's a huge challenge if I'm going, like you said, beyond my comfort zone, or if I'm sacrificing anything in my life. Of course, it's a high level. But when I'm not prepared to do it, when it happens to me, then I think it's an even bigger challenge. And you're right, it's a two question. First of all, will I be willing to sacrifice? And second, will I find the love of God within this situation? Right? This is basically what you were asking.
Yeah.
Mrs. Gisa Sarah raised her hand too.
I think what somebody else mentioned is first we don't own our souls, our neshama, and Hashem is not taking it from us. He might take it back, and that's the question. And that's when we begin to question ourselves and perhaps even him, because why he's taking it back from us when he gave it to us? Why, or in which circumstances he's taking it back from us. And I think love, I don't know, I might be far from the truth, but it's very interesting when people always mention loving God. Could you love God if that happens? Can you love God if that happens? This already happened in the past. Can you still love God and things like that? I don't think we do even have a choice, because we are part of him. We might get angry, we might doubt, we might get mad, we might question a lot of time, but you cannot choose. There's once you are, it's an neshama. It's not a physical body, it's an energy. It's the whole thing, and it's a part. I'm trying to explain it, but maybe I don't have the proper words. If a body, I mean a physical body, when it stays here, right? And he takes back our neshama like he does it every day and return it to us. That's why we say modani, modani. Okay, right. So how could you choose even between loving or not loving something that you were part of it, that you just came from it?
I think, Gisa Sala, if I may, that your question is a question over Rabbi Akiva, because the pasuk says you should love God, so it's not our we're not asking to do it, but it's God who asks us to love God. It means that there is a possibility to do it, and it's part of what we believe relationship with God is. And actually, what Rabbi Akiva said in the quote that we just learned is, even if he takes your soul, so he takes about my soul, my personal soul, my the soul that belongs to me,
Yeah.
and he talks about how God can take that soul. And this is the challenge that Rabbi Akiva states when it says "Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol nafshecha." So I think your question is a broader question, which is it's not it runs away from the challenge that Rabbi Akiva puts before us in a way.
Let me just, it's just a little thing I want to say. Do we have a choice not to? Do we have this choice? Do you have this option?
Can I just say something? If Hashem tells us that we should love him, for me, that means that he's saying it could be difficult at times. Like, I'm being serious. Like, if it says in the Torah we should do something, it says because Hashem understands that we are human beings. What you're talking about, as I'm interpreting it, Gisa, is that what you're saying, that we have a relationship with God, and not only that, we only have the relationship because God is giving us that relationship. God is giving us the soul. God is creating us.
Okay.
But we do live here with the human factor. The human factor is the part of being a human factor is that, like, we go up and down and we have challenges. And I'm just saying we have to as Hashem, we have to et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha. For me also means that this is something we have to toil in. This is a work. This is hard work. This is something that you have to actively, like, engage yourself into doing. It doesn't always come natural. Of course, halevai should, but it doesn't. And I'm saying that as an like, I'm an Orthodox rabbi, and I'm saying that. I'm not saying that because I don't love Hashem. Hashem, I very much do, but, like, it's something that I should work on. And the love could be stronger and stronger. I just want to say, but I hear that, like, this, but yeah, anyhow, I just wanted to like emphasize that I it's a relationship. A relationship goes up and down. Now we should make it as strong as possible, but it's a work. It's an avodah. I very much believe.
Mr. Thule raised their hand. I don't know if it's a man or a woman.
It's a woman.
Woman, hello, Thule. I'm
Hello.
sorry.
Hello, I'm from Helsinki. Very nice to meet everyone.
Nice.
I wanted to bring out a little bit more about what Gisa was saying, that when there is a love of God, or of when we talk about loving God with all our hearts and with all our soul and so forth. Of course, love has an element of trust. We need to trust that God knows what He has in mind for us. He has a plan in our lives, and He knows the day of our passing and so forth. And of course, when we are having a normal death, then we trust our souls to Him in those situations a bit easier. Of course, in the case of Rabbi Akiva, that he has to suffer like this means that his relationship with God is on a much higher level, of course. And we like, I find it very, I doubt myself, of course, that I, in a similar situation, what would I do? So it's all boils down to Emunah as well, and the trust that we have in God, but also I think that as some people say, that God gives us the challenges that we can actually carry. He doesn't give too big a burden to a person that they are not able to carry, and He will, of course, we have to trust that He would carry us through anything. But of course, I don't know exactly what my point is here, but it's an idea that's just it brought into my head that He takes our lives even if we don't have to suffer. He's also taking our lives when we are ill. We are just a normal life. It's all in His hands in any case. So if we think about it like this, then I think it's even a comforting idea to think about death, that we can trust God to take our life when and how He thinks best for us.
So first of all, thank you, because you're bringing the conversation into the next stage, which is the ultimate idea of giving your soul through death. I think both Rabbi Mattias and I were hesitant to jump into those waters, and we stayed in the area of comfort zone and
Very good.
and yes, and sacrificing. But so thank you for bringing us into that. But tell me if I understood you correctly, that you're basically saying that Rabbi Akiva's message is loving means trusting God with all what happens, and if you trust God even when He takes your soul in the ultimate way by taking your life, this is what the ultimate love of God is. Something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Esther Koponen, please.
I have two questions. Did Rabbi Akiva die because he was a Jew? And what about if one is not a Jew? Can he or she die for Kiddush Hashem? And then, did the youth in Nova Festival, the October 7, die Kiddush Hashem, and the same way in the kibbutzim?
Yeah.
Did they die Kiddush Hashem? How is it? There is two opinions about that, I have heard.
Am I allowed to answer?
Please.
Okay. This is if anytime someone dies, no, let me say it again. Anytime someone gets murdered for the simple reason that that person is a Jew, that person dies al Kiddush Hashem. Nekuda. Full stop. And I want to say one thing that's beautiful even though it's very sad, but it's beautiful. And I learned this only after the 7th of October. I didn't know this before. If someone dies after 120, we should all live and be well. When a Jew dies in its right time, we do something called tahara. We cleanse the body with water, in order so it's ritually pure, so it's tahor before it gets its kfura, before you bury the person. Someone who dies al kiddush Hashem gets buried exactly the way that person died, right away, because that person is considered to be so holy that you don't have to do anything extra. That it's very sad. But there's still something, because that person is so automatically came on such a high level, I guess, and is so close to Hashem himself, that a person dies exactly the way that person left this world. And so our brothers and sisters that got murdered in the attack or the pogrom on the 7th of October, I think without a doubt died al Kiddush Hashem. They were Jews.
I would add a little more detail to that, which the word Kiddush Hashem, Kadosh is holy, so Kiddush Hashem is on the holiness of God, or on the how would you translate it literally, Rabbi Amster?
Well, al Kiddush Hashem.
Yes,
I think it's for the holiness of Hashem's
but
name.
it's an active thing that
I know.
to
But-
lekadesh, to
Right,
make God's name
you
holy.
sanctify the name of God.
Sanctifying the name of God. Thank you. But the detail that I wanted to add is that it's not only that when they are killed, when they are murdered, then they are described in an active way. They've sanctified the name of God, even though they didn't do anything. Something was done to them.
Right.
But not only that, but they are actually called Kedoshim.
Yeah, Kedoshim, yeah.
They
Very
are
good.
called holy ones, holy people. like what we call the great big rabbis of every generation. Many rabbis are not called Kedoshim, but those people, regardless of how they lived their life or what they did before the moment that they were murdered, this very moment they are called Kedoshim, and actually it's a mitzvah to write that on their matzeva, to write them as a kadosh.
And we do that for the victims of the Holocaust as well. If you see, like, you have the Kedoshim, we sometimes even say, like, it's, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but it's like you're saying, our Kedoshim. They're our, like, yeah. Sorry, continue.
But I think that we should go back a bit, a few steps back, because if Tuli led us to the ultimate sacrifice of life, and we're 10 minutes before we end, I wanted to go a little further with the story. Rabbi Akiva meets Papos. Maybe I'll bring it up again in case anybody forgot. So Rabbi Akiva meets Papos. You see it in the second and the third paragraph. And it's a time where the Romans are not allowing to study Torah. They're not allowing to convene, and it's terrible times. We can all imagine. We know stories like that in more recent generations, where you are searched, and everybody's everybody's having an incentive to tell upon others who broke the law. And now the question is, what do I do? And of course, we know that we have a law also of pikuach nefesh. We have a law that we're not allowed to put our lives in danger. And the whole Torah is not relevant if our life is in danger. even pikuach nefesh doche Shabbat. If you're in a life-threatening situation, you don't have to keep the laws of Shabbat. Life is holiest than anything. Life is more sanctified than anything. And in this situation, a Jew that seems like not like a law-abiding Jew, not a religious Jew, comes and sees Rabbi Akiva convening people to study Torah. And I just want to point out, there's no specific mitzvah to convene someone, to convene a group and teach Torah. There's a mitzvah to learn Torah, but there's mitzvah to teach Torah. But this idea that to convene and to make it a public thing is not a mitzvah, and to do it in times of great danger, some might rule it's an avera, it's a sin, because it puts your life in danger. And Papos asks him pretty frankly, what are you doing? And Rabbi Akiva gives the parable. And the parable is actually a parable of life, which is amazing, I think, right? Let's go over the parable again. There's a fox who sees the fish on the river, and they're running away from the nets that are trying to catch them, and the fox offers them to go on land. And they say, the water is our source of life. This is where we can find life, even though we're in danger. If you take us out of the water, we will surely die. And this is Rabbi Akiva's answer to this situation, which in the story it's not shown as a religious question, as a halachic question, but I'm putting forward also the halachic question. Rabbi Akiva says, not only am I allowed to convene, I'm allowed to do it, but I must do it because this is the very definition of life. If I'm not doing this, if I'm not keeping the learning of Torah, if I'm not keeping the people of Israel swimming in Torah, that the Torah will be their natural habitat, their source of life, then I'm killing the people of Israel anyway. And in that way, the laws of Jewish life, including the laws of that pikuach nefesh is beside everything else, will not be relevant anymore, because we will be like fish who got out of the water. And this is and the parable, the allegory of life, is the excuse for Rabbi Akiva to put himself in a life-threatening danger. Rabbi Amster, what do you say about that? How do you view this?
Yeah. I hear. I know. I'm thinking what we're saying, and I don't have a good answer. Could you start now? I have to think for a second.
I want to say something, maybe in a way a bit frank,
Please.
which is, since the war started, I hear a lot in our areas the idea of fear. That because of fear, people are more worried to come to the Jewish center, to the synagogue. They're more afraid to be identified as Jews. In Malmö, I know that a few families took off their mezuzahs, so it won't be clear that there's a Jew living in the house. And each time I hear about that, they just did a big research in Malmö about Jews and their fear, or their response to anti-Semitism in the area of Malmö. And I think about this allegory of Rebbe Akiva every time regarding this. Where does the fear, or where is the point where being careful is already a death sentence. And then we must choose between two kinds of death. If I won't have any Jewish aspect in my life, or if I will have only secret Jewish actions in my life, is my Judaism staying alive? And then is it worth, and and on the opposite way, if I will be recognized as a Jew, and I'm taking the extreme situation, which I'm not sure is true, by the way, fear and reality is not the same thing. I'm not sure that we are fearing the reality or fearing what we fear could be the reality. But let's say that it's true, that all what we fear could actually it's realistic that it will come true. What is more of a death? To put myself in a life danger, or to cut all of my sources of life, my spiritual sources of life?
You're saying a very deep and a difficult but true point. And also, just I would say, it's dangerous to be scared. It's dangerous to be too scared. These people we need to be proud. We don't have to be in your face, but we have to be proud. I hear you. It's a very I can relate to. I know a lot of people are afraid to here. People ask me all the time, like, aren't you afraid? The people see that you're a Jew. And listen, I'll be honest, there's some places here I don't go looking like a Jew, but I'm not afraid. I don't feel scared because I am who I am. But I hear you. I wish there was a good answer to it. What do you think? Like, I hear what you're saying, Rabbi Natan. I agree with you. I just don't know. I don't have like, I wish I could say like, therefore this. I don't have a good answer. But maybe this is a good time for other people who maybe could relate to this. Like, are you here of the people that are here today? Do you feel more scared now? And if so, like, how does that show? Does it change your life? And how?
Or I suggest maybe the question should be, do we see a place where Mesirut Nefesh in different forms, I don't know if real giving the life, but putting ourselves in some kind of danger, do we see it as a relevant challenge today? Do we see it, does the crowd here see it as a relevant challenge, or we either dismiss it by saying there's no danger, or by saying I'm not putting myself even in a small amount of danger?
The question, as always, where is the limit? Does if somebody say to you, take the kippah down and don't be a Jew, or I kill now your children? Do you say kill my children? Today, not in the time of the Bible when everybody was brave, but today. That's a question.
Absolutely. There's the same place where the Talmud talks about how pikuach nefesh takes away everything. The Talmud states, but in times of shmad, in times where exactly like you're describing, someone tells you either you stop being Jewish or I kill you, then you should give your life even over alketa de mesana, even over the strap of your sandals. In other words, the way that Jews wrap their sandals around their feet. If a non-Jew says to you, either you strap your sandals differently or I kill you, you should be willing to be killed for this alketa de mesana, for this strap of sandals.
that means that we are not different from the Arabs. They also have murders. And we say, now I'm willing to be a murderer just for some symbol. I'm willing to sacrifice my children. It's not me. Okay, I'm a brave, but my small children, 2 years old, see them how they slaughter them in front of my eyes just for the sandals. Really great things. I don't believe it, that God asked us to do it. This is how we interpret it. But he don't ask us to willing to kill our children and ourselves for symbols that we maybe in 1-2 years we can go back to these symbols, but now we can save. And it's happened many times in the Shoah, many times. So where we are different from the Arabs that glory the dead for some symbols.
It's not for symbols. I just want to emphasize, the Gemara is not saying it's for symbols. The Gemara is saying like this: the person who comes and say, "Hey, I see that you are a Jew because you tied your sandals in a different way than us, which the Jews do. Therefore, I want to kill." Do you understand? Like the Gemara is teaching us an extreme point to show that if someone wants to kill you for the simple fact that you're a Jew, that's what it is. But of course, chas v'shalom, we don't want to sacrifice our kids. We never did. I'll tell you a story that happened to someone called Abraham and his son Yitzchak, right? Akedat Yitzchak. Yeah, you know what Rabbi Sachs say, and I think it's a nice shot. It says that the reason it was to show the world that if child sacrifice has been okay, it ends here. It's never okay again. It will never be okay again. We don't do it. Chas v'shalom. First of all, we never did, and we will never do it. That's not in our soul. That's not in DNA. That's not in our religion. That's not in our with us. Again, we are people that always are trying to stay alive. The reason, and I think that's the beauty of the Jewish people, is that even in the most difficult times, what we try to do is continue being alive. We find our bubble, and in that bubble we thrive. We go to the Bet Knesset, and there we thrive. We have our centers, and there we thrive. We have our country, and there we thrive. That's the Jewish people. If everyone else are against us, we still find a way to continue living. Like, that's the secret of us. That's what we do. We're people who live. We are the living people.
And
but there are
this
times.
and this is exactly the message of Rabbi Akiva, because the context that he gives is the context of life. Taking away the fish from the water is killing them. And I think that your parable, Arad, with the Arabs is exactly the opposite way around. Are we willing to kill ourselves because we believe that the way to kill ourselves is because our aim is to hurt others, and we are willing to kill ourselves in that process? Or our aim, our center is what is real life? What is Jewish life? And am I willing to give up the ultimate Jewish life or the Jewish world because I'm afraid? And even in the most extreme way, do I understand that there's something more than my own life when it comes to the Jewish life, that comes to the life of the Jewish people? And I think that what we come out with this learning session, we must stop, we're 4 minutes late already. What we come out is that at least in one extreme aspect of Judaism, we spoke about Emunah for 4 months now. We didn't speak about that. Emunah is many, many, many other things. But I think that somewhere in our mind, and somehow I feel, at least in my experience in Malmö this time, it becomes a bit more relevant now. Do we hold this aspect in the back of our minds as well? Saying, yes, Judaism is a religion of life. We are demanded to live beyond everything. Pikuach nefesh is beyond any other thing. We must keep our lives before any law in the Torah. But are we asking ourselves about Mesirut Nefesh? And are we measuring within our Jewish life what is the ultimate life of Judaism as opposed to my personal fear or my personal danger? Do we measure that? Do we have this bigger picture in our heads? Do we understand the price of life when we are keeping ourselves safe at the expense of the Jewish life that we are offering ourselves or our kids or our community or the Jewish world? And I think that's a serious question that we should have in our minds without any definite answers. Rabbi Amster, would you like to say your last words? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Next week, it will be back to Pirkei Avot. I don't know if it will be easier or harder, but I hope that we will all be filled with Emunah from all aspects. We will find the path within Emunah. We will face the challenge that the demand for Emunah asks us, and we will find the comfort with the trust in God and with the belief in God all of our lives, in good times and in hard times. Good night.
תודה רבה.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה.
לילה טוב.